a potentially accelerated timeline meantime. Iran warning it plans to take up new measures to speed up its uranium enrichment, possibly shortening the time it would need to build a nuclear weapon. Fox's Rich Edson at the State Department with the latest on all this. Rich.
Yeah, good afternoon, Connell. And Iran is promising to unveil the specifics of how exactly it's going to accelerate its nuclear program over the next couple of days. To that, a State Department spokesperson tells us, quote, Iran's announcement that it will take new steps regarding advanced centrifuge R&D is another transparent attempt to generate negotiating leverage and extort the international community. We've made it clear that the regime's political and economic isolation will only deepen if it takes further steps that increase concerns about its nuclear program. In other words, more sanctions on the way. There is also a question of whether President Trump will meet with Iranian President Hassan Rouhani at the United Nations General Assembly later this month in New York. The president says he wants to meet. Rouhani says only if the U.S. drops sanctions first. President Trump refuses. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu acknowledged this morning that a meeting between Presidents Trump and Rouhani was a possibility, though later today he stressed outright opposition to a potential meeting, especially after Iran's promise to build its nuclear program.
This is in addition to Iran's aggressive actions against international shipping, against regional countries, and also its attempts to carry out murderous attacks against Israel, attempts that have not stopped. This is not the time to hold talks with Iran. This is the time to step up pressure on Iran.
Iran has also been putting pressure on European countries to try to find a way to help Iran sell its oil after the U.S. left the Iran nuclear deal last year and restored sanctions on its top exports, especially oil. Connell?
All right, Rich Edson there at the State Department for us. Melissa.
Here now to react is General Jack Keane, Fox News senior strategic analyst. There is a lot to react to there. Let me ask you, there was that, potential meeting on the sidelines of the G7 where, they had their foreign ambassador was there. Macron seemed to be trying to broker a deal. Do you think any members of the U.S. delegation met with any Iranian members at that meeting?
I'm not aware of it, but that wouldn't be surprising. The Iranians clearly are in a very desperate situation. The maximum pressure campaign has really taken its toll. They're back on their heels in a way they have not been in 39 years, to be frank about it. You're conversant with the state of their economy. Inflation is spiraling out of control. Unemployment is at record levels. The currency is devalued significantly. And most importantly, their number one commodity, where they used to punch out 2,500,000 barrels per day, now they're down to a little north over 200,000, and it shows you what a dramatic turn down in revenue that they have. From that alone, it's dramatically significant. Yeah. Their revenue sources have dried up some 40–50%. So here what they're trying to do, and you're right, Melissa, they have gone to European nations and they're blackmailing them by saying, we're going to increase uranium enrichment, we're going to increase centrifuges, those are pathways to a nuclear bomb, in violation of the nuclear deal that's struck with those countries, in return for us finding a customer for our oil. And I hope the Europeans don't take them up on that, because they're giving in to that bribery. And if they do, I think the United States has got to get real tough with those nations.
What do you think about the fact that you have, they're saying we're, within months of being back to where we were before this deal was struck? It makes you think, what was the deal really worth if it was that easy? And then Macron steps in and says, maybe Europe will give you this $15 billion line of credit to help you out while these sanctions are on. I mean, what do you think of those two things?
Well, they got what they wanted out of the deal. They wanted their money back, and north of $130 billion was provided them because of the immediate sanction relief once the deal was struck. And of course, the United States was arguing with the world community, this will be a good thing because the Iranians treating them legitimately as a responsible nation, maybe they will act as a responsible nation. What did they do with that money? They poured it into their proxies in the Middle East, in the Hezbollah, in Hamas, in the Houthis, in the Iraqi Shia militia, and created more aggressive, malign behavior. And now they're trying to say that the nuclear deal, they've been abiding by it. Well, they have to a point. the nuclear deal that they accepted gets them a nuclear weapon when they want it in 15 years, and we're well on our way to that pathway right now.
Yeah.
I don't think the nuclear deal benefited the people in that deal, the principal nations in that deal. We've already lost as a result of it because they've got the money to flush their operations, which have been more aggressive and more detrimental to instability in the Middle East.
The point of that deal was, you know, the Europeans wanted another market into which to sell their products because their economies were slowing, and they thought they could sell products into Iran. You have a fresh market that hasn't been exposed to all of these things that they know that are out there that they want, and they thought in exchange what could happen, Obama's argument was that the people they'll see Coca-Cola and Apple Computer and all these things, and they'll decide that they don't want to live under this oppressive regime. Well, nothing ever reached those people, so that didn't work out. Now you have Rouhani coming to the UN at the end of the month. Do you think that President Trump meets with him while he's here?
I think there's a possibility, given the current terms that Rouhani has, that he would only meet with the President of the United States if we took sanctions off the table. I mean, it could be, and certainly the President is not going to do that. This maximum pressure campaign is as comprehensive as it is. And all the things that the Iranians have tried to do, Melissa, to get us off that path, with disrupting the oil flow, sabotaging tankers and stealing tankers and hitting Saudi oil fields and shooting down an American drone, and now with the busting enrichment. What has happened as a result of that? Have we decreased any sanctions? No. The United States has increased sanctions on them. So they have called the president. They tried to get the United States politically isolated. It has not worked. They are failing in a way that I have not seen them in many, many years.
Interesting. We'll see where it goes from here. Come back soon, General. Thank you for your time.